Dynasty Decisions is back with episode number 106. This is where we break down your dynasty teams, your trade questions, your rebuilding, contending questions. We're getting into peak rookie hype season, so a lot of moves that you need to be doing. We posted a sells video yesterday, going to be having a buys video probably next week. So a ton to talk about. But without further ado, let's get right into it.
All right, so the first team comes from motherfucker Will Atkin. And I mean, right off the bat, 12 teams start 10 league. You can start up to, 5 wide receivers in this league. So keep that in mind. Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Ryan Tannehill as the main quarterbacks. Running backs, Bijan Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, and Gus Edwards. Wide receivers, you got CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Drake London, Treylon Burks, etc. there. And then at tight end, you have David Njoku, Michael Mayer, Tucker Kraft. So pretty strong core. Along with the 101, the 104, the 105, the 111, the 204, the 304, the 305, and the 404 this year, as well as keeping all of his future picks, as well as an extra mid-first in 2026. So, I mean, right off the bat, we could talk about the fact that this roster is in really good shape.
Yeah, this is your prototypical house money team right now because you're going to have a really good chance to add some high-end rookies to this team that already has staple guys at every position. I mean, you have Josh Allen as your main quarterback. Bijan's the RB1 in Dynasty. Lamb, Olave, London, all top 12 Dynasty wide receivers in my rankings. I mean, your tight end core doesn't have a stud, but Michael Mayer, David Njoku, Tucker Kraft, even your depth guys, Greg Dulcich and Noah Fant, Daniel Bellinger, like, these are the type of tight end cores that people are able to build nowadays, with the tight end position being a little bit more of a fruitful market. The first move that we'll get into his questions, but the first move that sticks out to me is that I'm getting off Deshaun Watson. I don't know about you, but I'm taking Deshaun Watson and one of my rookie picks, and I'm going after another stud quarterback. Or knowing that you have the 101, I would just sell Deshaun Watson for whatever, draft assets you can get for him. But the thing that stands out to me is because a lot of the times when you're buying, say, Justin Herbert, they want a quarterback back. So maybe you could sell Deshaun Watson plus the 111 and maybe something else for Justin Herbert, or maybe you could sell that even for a lesser quarterback like Trevor Lawrence or something like that.
Yeah, even on this roster, because of the setup that you have, like, even if you can get onto some more certainty, like a Dak Prescott, I'd be cool with it. Not to mention the cost might be even cheap. So you get that. You have options to be able to move Deshaun. I would definitely, like Corey said, attach a pick to Deshaun, get off the uncertainty, because quite frankly, you have the assets to be able to get the uncertainty off your team. What's going to hurt you more is Deshaun Watson falling flat on his face versus missing the hypothetical value ascension if he does return back to form. So like Corey said, get some more certainty at the quarterback 2 spot, whether that's, a cheaper option like Prescott, or maybe you go up to a Kyler Murray, or maybe you do swing for a hammer. You do have listed here that the guy who has Hurts wants to move him. He wants a ton, but if it's a realistic offer, I'd be willing to do it on this type of setup for your team. If you can do it without having to give up even the 101, the 104, even if it's Deshaun Watson plus the 105, you're doing that for Hurts pretty easily, right?
Yeah, I think I would probably do that. I mean, he also says Kyler Murray is available, and Kyler is just like this perpetual buy low candidate all the time.
Facts.
So for me, I would actually see what the cost of Kyler is, because I think you might be able to get Kyler with 111 and Deshaun Watson, to be honest. So I would maybe explore that trade route. I mean, the other thing too is, like, if Deshaun Watson has value in your league, like I talked about already, if somebody's going to give you like the 108 for Deshaun Watson, just sell him straight up and just take Caleb Williams at 101.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you could do that. Or if you are keen on getting Marvin Harrison Jr. to this team, because you kind of mentioned, is there any path where 102 would want to trade down to the 104? Like, would you be able to move 104 up to 102? Or if you want Marvin and Malik Neighbors, would somebody be willing to do 105 plus for the 102? I mean, we just mentioned Deshaun Watson. I wouldn't even be opposed to giving up Deshaun Watson plus the 105 for the 102 plus another pick or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you also, since you're in a house money window, you could use some running back talent because you're probably going to be competitive this year. So if you're trying to trade up for Marvin and that guy has, say, Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley or Rashad White or something like that on his roster, you can maybe fashion a deal that involves your rookie picks. Maybe he's trying to rebuild or whatever. And then you get Marvin, you also get a running back out of the deal. So you can be really creative with this. And given some of the trades that you've made, I feel pretty confident that you're going to know how to fashion some proper deals here. The one thing that I will say before we get into some of these deals that sticks out to me is, let's say in the draft, you sell off Deshaun Watson, you get some draft capital for him, or maybe you go after another quarterback, but you don't give up either 101, 104, 105. If you go into this rookie draft and you grab, say, Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors, and some other piece, another quarterback potentially, or you sell off that pick, trade down and get Odunze or whatever, and you're looking at that 111 pick and you want to sell that straight for a running back because you're ready to compete this year, I'm totally okay with doing that. Say like the Raiders give Josh Jacobs like a 2-year deal with a lot of guaranteed money. I'd be fine sending the 111 for Josh Jacobs. Maybe you can even get Josh Jacobs plus in peak rookie hype season, or you could go after, say, Rashad White, or if your league's a little pessimistic on Achane or Kyron Williams, maybe it doesn't cost you that much more from 111 to get up to those guys. So I would say that 111 pick specifically is one that I would earmark potentially for shopping for a veteran running back. Same goes for the 204. You might be able to get a rookie running back with that pick.
There's another direction you can go with the 111 because he also says here, other option is to move up from the 105 using the 111 to get 102. If the cost to move up from 105 to 102 is only giving up the 111 and your team, you're doing it every single time because then you have Caleb and Marvin Harrison already secured. You have the 104 to potentially get a guy like Malik Neighbors as well. And then at that point, like Corey said, like, yeah, maybe you don't have the 111 to move for a running back, but you can move Deshaun Watson if you want to at that point for a running back. And Deshaun Watson plus a pick get you into the, top 8, top 9 range at running back? Like, can Deshaun Watson plus a pick on this current market get you closer to Jonathan Taylor?
I don't know. It'd be a little bit tougher, but you could also even potentially send Zach Charbonnet in the 204 for a better running back. You could do something like that. You also still have buying power in season with that extra 2026 first, with all of your future picks in 2025 as well. So you could always make a move at that point in time. I think figuring out running back is one of those things that seems like a daunting task, but it's actually, at least in the leagues that we play in, a very easy thing to do because people are always looking to sell running backs. You also have a million tight ends. Maybe you could sell for some upside swings. Maybe somebody loves Tucker Kraft, Greg Dulcich, even Michael Mayer, somebody like that, and you can take a swing on a Roschon Johnson, or maybe you can get up to a Tajay Spears or something like that. You could make running back moves pretty easily. Looking at some of these trades, and then we'll talk about some of the other stuff here. I mean, you've been fleecing dudes left, right, and center. Last year, you sold the 112. You get the 105. Great process move, ends up even better because that pick probably was mid to late when that guy sent it, ends up being the 105, and you sold the 112, which became Jonathan Mingo instead of, say, Devon Achane or somebody that it could have been. So great move there. In May, you sell off the 301 and Chigakonkwo. Unfortunate the 301 became Tajay Spears. You got David Njoku and Tucker Kraft. I think you netted probably positive there, but Tajay Spears definitely has gained value recently. Zay Flowers, 110, 211, and 212. You got CeeDee Lamb. That is absolutely free cash. No analysis needed. In the season, you sell Sam Howell and Jake Ferguson for a 26 first. Definitely a great move. I don't know how the fuck you pulled this off, but you sold Zach Wilson for what became the 101. I'm assuming, again, that the person that made this trade thought they were a competitive team, thought they were going to, potentially push for a championship, bought Zach Wilson simply because he was a starting quarterback because Rodgers got hurt. And this is the fleece of a century. I mean, Caleb Williams for Zach Wilson, you're not going to find a more lopsided trade than that.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it. I'm not going to spend too long honing in on this, but I'm just trying to understand the rationale of this guy doing this in September. I'm assuming it's right after Rodgers tears his Achilles. Maybe Zach Wilson had a good game, and this guy's like, "Oh,
we said he lost Chubb as well. This guy lost Rodgers and Chubb in the span of 2 weeks, and then panicked. And then after he bought Zach Wilson, I guess he started selling off his top players because he wasn't competitive. So just absolutely rookie dynasty maneuvering by this guy that you made this trade with.
I just don't understand. Even at the time, I understand at one point there was a market for late first for Zach Wilson when the injury happened. I get that. But at the same time, how can you misevaluate your team so bad to that point? Because, I mean, losing Chubb should not be the difference between you being a contending team and being the 101. I'm sorry. If that's the case, and also worth mentioning, if you're a contending team, what does Zach Wilson do for your lineup, man? I don't understand what this guy was doing. He panicked, like you said, rookie dynasty move. He's probably thinking this pick's late, but then again, I don't know how Zach Wilson's going to take you over the top if you're a contending team. I don't understand where this guy's brain's at.
Yeah, this is the type of trade that probably caused this guy to leave the league. Realistically, he probably left the league this year. I let me know in the comments, Will, if that's actually what happened, because that is a really embarrassing fleece for that guy. Again, we're not going to spend too much time on this team. A lot of people don't like when we do that. This team is in very good shape. Spend your picks, make some moves if you can. Go up for Marvin if you want to. Deshaun Watson is the clear sore thumb that sticks out to me as a guy that I'd be shopping, and same goes for some of those tight ends if you got some truthers in your league. So let's move on to the next team here, which is from Spencer Riley. We have on the screen 12-team, half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown, half tight end premium. Joe Burrow, Jordan Love is the top quarterbacks. Rashad White, Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson. So decent, like light at running back, but has some competitive options there. Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Jahan Dotson, Demario Douglas, Khalil Shakir, some guys there. And then Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Cade Otton as the main tight ends. Does have a crap ton of draft capital as well, an extra first and second in 26, an extra second in 25, in addition to the 101, 102, 105, 201, 202, and 204 in 2024. So again, don't want to spend a super ton amount of time on this team because it's in very, very good shape, as you guys can see. In addition to all of those stable franchise assets, you already have a duo of quarterbacks that is going to be one of the better ones in your league. You have these high-end draft capital assets. So what's your thought process here? I would imagine a lot of people would look at this team and be like, hey, should I trade down from Caleb Williams? Should I be like, what is the thing that you'd be looking to do here?
It fully depends on the league market you're in. Cause I mean, we'll get into some of the trades in a second, but it seems to me that people prioritize name value over draft equity in this league is what I've kind of noticed. But if you can right off the bat, move one of those quarterback equity pieces, whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Jordan Love, whether it's Caleb Williams, whoever nets you the highest price is the one I'm willing to move. Now, I do prefer like Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow are the clear top two. Jordan Love would be the third of this option. So if it's all equal deals, I would sell Jordan Love of this trio. But I feel like Joe Burrow, because of the name value, because it's a newer dynasty league, is going to get you the most out of those three. And given that your team's young, I don't even think that's a bad thing. Moving off the soon-to-be 27, 28-year-old quarterback, keeping the 21-year-old and the 24-year-old at hand here with Jordan Love and with Caleb Williams. And if Joe Burrow nets you the equivalent of 3.5, 4+ first, given the market that I'm seeing here, that's the direction I would go. Because if you can take the asset of Joe Burrow and maybe not part him, I say 3.5, 4 first of value. I'm more so saying, can you take Joe Burrow and turn him into CeeDee Lamb plus and turn him into Jamar Chase plus? Or maybe if those guys are unavailable, can you turn him into Amon-Ra St. Brown plus? Like, I'd be willing to do that type of move with this team because you're going to be adding Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 102. And I'm always in the spot where if I have two really studly quarterbacks, I want to move the third at this point because I know how valuable the wide receiver position can get as well. And I can get some more production at the wide receiver spots. And quite frankly, if you add to the wide receiver position, let's say it's Marvin Harrison Jr. and an Amon-Ra St. Brown or a CeeDee Lamb or a Jamar Chase, then at that point, you're looking at this team where you can start up to 6 per week. And suddenly, not only are you a house money team, but you're probably on the side of being even a top contender, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of direction you could go with this. These are the fun dynasty leagues that you're in where you have a lot of opportunity. I mean, there's a possibility too. He mentions here, like, you know, this league doesn't value quarterbacks maybe to the degree that they should. So maybe it might be a little bit higher or harder to sell a guy like Joe Burrow, harder to sell a guy like Jordan Love. I know we kind of just talked about the fact that, like, hey, maybe you don't want to be holding, let's say, Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow, and Jordan Love, and maybe even another quarterback at 105, because he mentions here that Malik Neighbors he thinks will go at 104. So, I mean, at that point, are you just going to take the quarterback value if it's unable to be sold on the open market? That's probably not the most wise move. Sometimes you do have to a little bit adapt to your league market. And in that case, maybe you, like, if Jaden Daniels, Drake May is on the board at 105 because Neighbors already went, you could maybe sell the 105 and go after a stud running back potentially. I think that's the type of move that I would be looking to do with this team, because you can push it from a house money team to a real contender right away. If you added, say, Marvin at 102, Caleb Williams at 101, you know, you sell 105 for Jahmyr Gibbs or something like that, and then suddenly you can really compete with this team. And then at 201, 202, 204, those are going to be good dart throw options at some of the running backs in this class, at some of the depth wide receiver, tier 2 wide receivers in this class. So this is a team that I think you can make competitive this year with hitting on your picks. So you're in a really good spot. I mean, we can look at some of the trades here. You sent away Jordan. So it looks like he sent away Jordan Love and then bought Jordan Love again from the same guy. So in October, you sell Jordan Love, Puka Nacua, and a first that became the 102 for Justin Jefferson in a second. So at the time, you got fucking fleeced, dude. You got absolutely fleeced on this trade. Thankfully, you kind of made up for it with the next deal of getting Jordan Love back. You sell CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and a 2025 first. I'm not sure if that was yours or if it was somebody else's. The nice thing is you got that 102 back, because I'm assuming it wasn't the 102 when you made the trade, and you made this because you noticed it was tanking. Jordan Love, T. Higgins, and a 201. So again, at face value, Jordan Love and T. Higgins versus Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. I think I would prefer Tank Dell and CJ Stroud,
Good
but
amount.
you got the 102 and the 201 in exchange for a 2025 first. So you went from really, really getting fleeced in the first deal. And as much as you can get fleeced for Justin Jefferson, obviously you feel very good about him as an asset, to kind of making up for it in the second deal, which is definitely a good correction on your part.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at the CJ Stroud, Tank Dell 2025 first for the Jordan Love, T. Higgins 102 side is whether it's the 102 or whether it's Jordan Love, if you add T. Higgins to it, that's about the equivalent value for CJ Stroud. And then at that point, let's just say it was Jordan Love plus T. Higgins for CJ Stroud. Tank Dell plus a 2025 one for the 102 plus a 201. So, I mean, the 102 straight up, by far the most valuable asset in this deal. So, I do like your side there. The reason why, because you mentioned the first deal, looking at the date, what is that, October 11th, 2024? I can understand why this
Love
was
was
the
not
valuation.
considered to be as highly of an asset as he is now on
That pick
October
wasn't
11th. And Puka
102.
Nacua too, like, was
Yeah,
probably not quite considered to the same level that he is. This was probably right around Justin Jefferson's injury, I think, maybe. And then
probably. Yeah.
also that pick that you sold was probably also not considered the 102 at the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, like, although right now you look at it, oh, what it ended up materializing into, like, it looks like you got fleeced. At the time you made it, like, it was sound process. Risky asset. Don't know how high that first is going to be. You go and buy a guy like Justin Jefferson, who, because he got injured, was attainable, who may not be attainable the rest of the time in this league, to be honest. You mentioned that this is a newer dynasty league with a lot of new players. A lot of these players are going to see the name Justin Jefferson, are going to see the name Patrick Mahomes, going to see the name Josh Allen, and the seldom windows that you have to be able to acquire those guys are very, very, minute. And to the point here, obviously, Justin Jefferson getting hurt, that represented a buy window.
Yeah, and then the last deal you made here on November 27th, you sell off Treylon Burks, the 109, and a 2025 third. You receive Rachaad White and the 202. So, I mean, 109 versus 202, not a massive, massive difference in terms of what those picks are equivalent to in value. You're probably looking at a tier 2-ish wide receiver with both of those picks. Just you're getting the back end of the tier and the front end of the tier as the difference there. Maybe you get RB1 in the class or whatever. I mean, Rachaad White for Treylon Burks in the 2025 third. I have Rachaad White rated as a top 10 dynasty running back. So
same.
You look at Rachaad White, he doesn't stand out as like this goated name that you got, but at the same time, he is a very valuable competitive running back for your team. So I actually really like this move. I think this is a sharp move that you made. He also said he traded AJ Brown for 3 1s after the startup, and one of those picks became 105. So, I mean, that was also very, very good. Sometimes when you can get the value accumulation potential on these wide receivers, that AJ Brown this time last offseason was, considered a top 3 dynasty wide receiver. And if you sold them off for a tier down plus some insulated value, like it's kind of looks like what you did there, that definitely materialized into a great trade. So, I mean, is there anything else you need to add on this one? I mean, it looks like he has a very, very solid base, very solid foundation, in addition to a lot of flexibility with these draft picks. Again, see if you can sell one of your quarterbacks off. If you can sell Burrow, if you can sell Love, just take Caleb and replenish your quarterback core, because at 102, you're going to take Marvin. At 105, you could probably get away with taking Odunze there, given that your league doesn't value quarterbacks as highly. But if a quarterback needy team needs Jaden Daniels or Drake May, if Neighbors goes ahead of 105, you could always trade down a little bit and work the board. Definitely check out the video we did the other day on the 105 to 108 strategy for that pick specifically. But I mean, regardless, I look at this team and I think you're in very, very good shape. So I think we can probably move on to the next team here, which is from Cole Thomas, and I will pull that one up right now. We have 10-team, half PPR, 4-point per passing touchdown, super flex league. Aaron Rodgers, Sam Howell, Trey Lance, nothing really going on at quarterback. He does have Bijan, Breece Hall as his top running backs with Kamara and some other guys there. Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, JSN, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, and then some other upside pieces, David Njoku, Darren Waller, and company there. This is a really interestingly built team. You also have the 101 in 2024. You don't have any of your picks in 2025, though. This one's weird because you got like a very competitive win now roster minus the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the roster, the way you slice it, I mean, 10 teams starting 9 league, you're going to be right off the bat, again, because it's a super flex, you're going to get Caleb Williams. So we'll plug in Caleb Williams to one of those quarterback spots. Then it's dicey, like you said. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be fully healthy? Zach Wilson's probably going to be traded by then. Josh Dobbs, no chance at being a starter this year.
And Howell and Lance, maybe they turn into something. Probably not, though.
Probably not. Like if Aaron Rodgers isn't ready to start week one, like be prepared to potentially throw like an Alvin Kamara in your flex. That might actually have to be, or super flex. That might actually have to be the math, because if you map out this team, quarterback, let's just say it's Caleb Williams, 2 running backs, Bijan, Brees Hall, wide receivers, 2 of them, Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk. Tight end, you got David Njoku. Your 2 flexes are probably going to be Drake London, JSN/Keenan Allen in that instance. And then your super flex is going to be one of those guys or a guy like Alvin Kamara. So I feel like you should be able to suffice, especially at the beginning. But obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, that's going to be the big time net for your team. If he could look like prime Aaron Rodgers prior to that Achilles tear, I do think, like you said, this could be a very interesting team, especially in a competitive sense.
So let me ask you this. Let's say, again, remember this is a 10-team superflex too. So quarterback should be a smidge more attainable than they would be in a 12-team. And also that means that 204 is actually what the 202. And maybe if we get 5 first-round quarterbacks, you might actually have Bo Nix or Michael Penix on the board for you at that point in time. If you could trade the 101, say for Justin Herbert or somebody in that area that goes around Caleb Williams in a startup, and then also trade the 204 for Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, somebody like that. Would you do that knowing that the rest of this team is ready and set up to try and compete?
Heartbeat. I mean, as much as I love Caleb Williams, I still prefer a Justin Herbert type. I like Lamar Jackson, obviously sign me up. As long as like you're getting a young franchise quarterback, if you want to move off of Caleb Williams because he's not a sure thing, quote unquote, yet, and you want to go and get a guy like Justin Herbert, who has clearly a superstar's talent, will give you the stack advantage there with Keenan Allen. Yeah, I'm all for it. If that guy wants to do that swap straight up in this league, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, you don't have to do that yet. I mean, you still have plenty of time for these rookie picks to accumulate value and such. But I mean, if I could just buy 2 quarterbacks with 101 and 204, I think you're ready to compete with this team, to be honest. Like, I mean, you have a lot of good redraft projections. Both Bijan and Brees Hall are going to be first-round redraft picks. You have Garrett Wilson, who should be a mid-first, late-first, early second-round redraft pick. Brandon Ayuk is like a late second-round pick. Drake London, Keenan Allen, JSN will be mid-round picks. David Njoku's a top 10 tight end. If you added, say, Justin Herbert and Matthew Stafford with the 101 and the 204, maybe you could also pocket some additional pieces or whatever, get some draft picks back on top of that. I mean, you're going to be chilling with this team, in my opinion. So see what the quarterback market looks like. Again, it shouldn't be that bad. I mean, it's a 10-team half PPR superflex. So the quarterback market should be more attainable than, say, a 12-team league where, you know, quarterbacks, it's a 6-point per passing touchdown. There's big play bonuses and all that kind of stuff. So I would really, really exhaust the veteran market, because I think your brain and your intuition says just take Caleb Williams 101. But the rest of your team is ready to compete. So he actually doesn't quite fit what your team is looking to do at this moment in time. If you can just swap him for similar startup value quarterback like Justin Herbert, like even Anthony Richardson, potentially, like somebody like that, would make actually a little bit more sense with your team. I wouldn't take any unnecessary risk if you don't have to. If all it costs you to get Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, somebody like that is 101 and 303 or 101 in one of your bench pieces, I would 100% just do that. And then you have a lockdown, solidified quarterback. You can maybe go into the season with just those 2 guys, just say Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. And then if mid-season you need to buy another quarterback, you can sell, you know, a piece at that point for a Derek Carr or somebody who's just like a patchwork quarterback. Or maybe you luck into like this year's Joe Flacco or this year's Josh Dobbs, where you can tread water as your third quarterback. I think you could be in a worse situation. Let me just put it that way. You're in a position where it's a 10-team super flex. It shouldn't be that hard to acquire a quarterback, and the rest of your team's ready to compete.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, your team is telling you that it is time to compete, like you kind of said. Go make it compete. You said feels kind of like a house money team with a chance to be good soon. I would say that it has a chance to be good really soon, to be honest. The only position I need, like Corey said, is the quarterback position, and you have Caleb Williams to be able to add to it.
Yeah, and I mean, you made some trades here in October. You sent Kareem Hunt, Cam Akers away for the 303 and Treylon Burks. Fine, take a shot on Treylon Burks. The 303 might be the most valuable asset in that deal, to be honest. So not a bad move there. You sell off a second rounder for David Njoku. It's funny. I think on November 17th is also when I bought David Njoku, that exact date. So it's funny that you made a trade for Njoku with a second as well, because that's literally what I bought him for as well. So that definitely makes some sense there. And then in January, you sell off Jordan Addison, 104 and a 25 first for Caleb Williams. So it looks like you looked at the board. You're like, I need quarterback. I'm going up and getting Caleb. Would you have done that in his position? Because you were still probably getting a quarterback at 104.
I mean, it's kind of tough because, I mean, if you prioritize Caleb, I don't hate it, but it is a very, very big price to pay, especially in a 10-man league, 4-point passing touchdown league. I probably would have kept my assets and tried to use the 2025 one to get a different quarterback as well. So I would have been able to knock out two birds with one stone. But again, if you're a big Caleb Williams guy, I think this is a reasonable price, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you could have kept, say, Jordan Addison, sold the 104
Oh,
for
easily,
Kyler
yeah.
Murray, and sold the 2025 first for, I don't know, Will Levis in a second or something, like you
Yeah.
definitely would have done something like that
Oh, for sure.
instead.
Yeah.
But again, that might not have been on the table. I'm just kind of raising hypotheticals. You want to go get Caleb Williams. He's like, I might have overpaid, but I love Caleb, so I'm going to go get him. I'm never
Yeah.
going to fault somebody for doing that. Caleb is the type of guy that you make that trade for. So definitely in a pretty good spot. Again, just figure out your quarterback situation. You have a lot of assets to be able to do it, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
should be ready to compete this year, at least in a house money capacity. So let's talk about Kyle's team here. 12 team, full PPR, 4 point per passing touchdown, half tight end premium. It is a super flex as well. Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones is the quarterbacks, Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, and some other guys at running back. AJ Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Drake London, George Pickens, Nico Collins,
Listen in weird
Cortland
order.
Sutton at wide receiver, and then Trey McBride and Pat Fryermuth at tight end. So a little bit of a wonky order that he lists these guys in, but a very solidly built team nonetheless. In 2024, he has the 106, 206, and 406. Looks like he just missed the playoffs this year. And then in 2025, he has all of his future picks. So I mean, he said this is his first rookie draft. So I guess the startup was last year, was his first dynasty league. This will be his first rookie draft. He said the team feels fine, quote unquote, but he's struggling on how to improve it. So do you think his team is fine, or do you think his team is good?
So, I mean, right off the bat, I guess you're a little bit weaker at quarterback overall with Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. But in a start
Wide receiver and tight end, I think you're probably one of the stronger ones in your league. I mean, AJ Brown, Drake London, George Pickens, and Nico Collins are all very solid dynasty wide receivers. I guess you're kind of lacking depth across the board at wide receiver and running back.
Yeah.
And then at quarterback too, because you don't have a third quarterback that's a starter right now. So I would
that
say
doesn't mean much in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I think fine is probably a good observation of this. I think you're probably the 5th or 6th best team in this league.
I would agree. And for reference, because it's a start 8, like just because you don't feel the need to have to go 7 or 8 deep at wide receiver or 5 or 6 deep at running back in a start 8 league. Start 11, start 12. That's when you start prioritizing the depth. But realistically, the only thing that matters in this league is, can you hit the home run? Can you hit the home run, and can you get a player at 106 that can figure into a start 8 starting lineup, which I think you should be able to. You mentioned that you like Rome Odunze in the draft. I'd be more than comfortable adding Rome Odunze to this team at that 2024 or at that 106 spot in 2024. So if we're looking at the team at that point, let's just say you add Rome Odunze, then you're looking at Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence as your main 2 starting quarterbacks in this league. Then you would have at running back Isaiah Pacheco, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, guys that could at least contribute, because the main strength of your team is going to be at wide receiver and tight end here with AJ Brown, with Drake London, with George Pickens, with Nico Collins, Rome Odunze. Maybe at that point, I would actually say the opposite. Can you move one of those wide receivers plus maybe one of those 2025 picks and upgrade Tua Tagovailoa or Trevor Lawrence into like a hammer quarterback? Because like I kind of mentioned, in a start 8 league, you do need hammers at those spots. And although I like the long-term trajectory for Trevor Lawrence, I like the cost in the market for Tua Tagovailoa, there's no real, 23, 25 point per game scorer at quarterback, which I'm assuming some of the other top contenders will have in a start 8 league. And given the fact that it is a start 8, those scores, if you have a Josh Allen, if you have a Patrick Mahomes, if you have a Jalen Hurts, just absolutely carry lineups sometimes.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense to me as well. It's difficult because you look at this team and you're like, hey, if you say hypothetically add Rome Odunze and at 206, maybe you get another running back or something like that to help out the core. You could get Trey Benson or Jalen Wright or Blake Corum or something at 206. Then I think you're going to be in a house money type of situation. I mean, you have all of your future picks. If mid-season you have to buy a wide receiver, you have to buy a running back, maybe you can buy a quarterback even potentially on the low for like a 2025 singular first or whatever. I think I'm okay doing that, to be honest. I think a lot of your players have pretty good outlooks. It's just like Danny kind of mentioned, in a start 8 league, is the point production going to be stacking up with the top contenders? Because if somebody has a Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow team with like a really good wide receiver core, solid running backs, with one of their running backs being like absolute hammer, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall type, then you're going to maybe have a bit of a harder time competing. But it is a tight end premium league, and you have Trey McBride, who's a hammer at tight end right now. And Fryermuth is a good second option. So, I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot of questions other than this live offer here. He has an offer for Drake London. His Drake London, he would sell off for JSN and a round 3 rookie pick in 2025. I prefer Drake London to JSN by a pretty wide margin. So I'm keeping Drake London there.
Yeah, I mean, even if this was a start 11, start 12 league and it was JSN in a 2025 second, maybe that's when you start getting, relatively equivalent value. But given the fact that it's a start 8 and given the fact that it's a 2025 third to voluntarily downgrade at wide receiver, in my opinion, which is what Drake London to JSN would do, I'm good.
Yeah, I think Drake London and JSN have a pretty similar range of outcomes. Only I've seen a lot more out of Drake London to say he's more likely to receive said range of outcomes. It's like both of these guys could end up being this time next year bona fide top 8, top 10 dynasty wide receivers if, say, Drake London gets Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, for example, or JSN, Tyler Lockett gets cut or something and he becomes the number 1 or number 2 receiver there in Seattle. Regardless, I think Drake London is the better bet at this point in time. So, I mean, when you look at this team again, it's a shallow league and you kind of need to hit on some picks. So hopefully a Romo Dunze type, whatever you can get at 206 is enough to get this thing over the edge. If not, evaluate this one midseason is what I would say. If your players aren't performing, if AJ Brown's playing bad, if Drake London, George Pickens, Nico Collins all take steps back or whatever, then you maybe would have to sell off some assets. But I think this is a very solid, like, house money, see what happens type of contender here. It might not be the best team in your league, but it could definitely be a top 3 or 4 team if things break right for you. So let's move on to the next team here, which is from Brian Jones, 10-team league, 4-point per passing touchdown, single quarterback. So again, very shallow start 8 league, single quarterback, Joe Burrow, Tua, Jared Goff. That's all you really need there. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Jerome Ford at running back. So pretty solid core. AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Amari Cooper, and some other guys there. Mark Andrews as the main tight end. Doesn't have a 1 this year, but he does have 2 2s, 201 and 206. And again, 10-team league. So it is actually the 111 basically that you have there at the 201, but it is a 1 quarterback 111. So not an overly valuable pick. You do have all of your future draft capital as well. I think it's pretty clear that he says the plan is to run it back with this squad. I'm just not sure what moves to make or who to target in the draft. So, I mean, running it back is probably the right assessment, I would say.
Yeah, you got to run it back. And you mentioned like there's not really much else to add. There really isn't, man. Like at the 201, the 206 at this point, like obviously, given the fact that you are a mother flocker, you can see where our rankings are. But anybody in that direction, maybe the RB2 in the class, RB3 in the class, if they get top 100 capitals there, maybe, at that point, one of the top wide receivers. Again, we have like 10, 15 guys that we're comfortable with taking at that 201, 206 spot in a 1 quarterback league. So just kind of pick your litter, whoever falls there. Like realistically, we're not going to know, especially until after the draft in a 1 quarterback league, because there's a lot that can happen, man. Like Keon Coleman can fall out of the first 2 rounds and he may be available there at the 206. You know what I mean? Like you never know what's going to happen on draft day. So trying to plot it out at this point is a little bit tough, but I mean, the main direction, obviously, of course, in a start 8 type of league is where can you get advantages, man? You're already set at wide receiver. You're already set at running back. Honestly, my biggest advice maybe is seeing if you can use those picks and get some more vets, to be honest, because you want the production year 1 rather than the long-term ascension value of those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, the video I did yesterday talking about certain players that might be a little overvalued on the market, you do have a couple of them on your roster. I talked about Najee Harris in that video. I talked about Amari Cooper in that video, Marvin Mims in that video. So with those 3 guys, maybe you can transition them into a similarly valued upside swing potentially. Like if Amari Cooper can get you to somebody, a different competitive wide receiver that has a little bit more ascension appeal to them, you could maybe go after somebody like that. Najee Harris specifically is the one guy that I would potentially shop because, I mean, he's in a split backfield. He's not very good. He's 26 years old. If you could flop him right into a wide receiver instead, I would maybe do that.
It looks like he already traded away Najee Harris. I guess he didn't update the sheet because in his trades, he sent away Najee plus a 2025 third for the 202. If you could take the 202.
That's the 112 in a 1 quarterback league, essentially, because it's a 10 team. So, 112 for Najee Harris. Fuck, I'll take that any day of the week. You could probably get Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, Xavier Leggett, maybe RB1 or 2 off the board in this class. Like with 201, 202, and 206, I would aim to walk away with at least 1 running back, but mainly you're probably going to walk away with best player available. At 201, say you take Troy Franklin, 202, you get Trey Benson, and 206, you get Xavier Leggett. That's going to be a nice influx of youth to this team and a nice influx of talent, but you also could shop those picks for veterans if you wanted to.
I might even be adventuring towards packaging all those picks together. 201, 202, 206. Can I either move up like very far in the draft? Can I trade it for a vet like without having to give up first round equity? Like
ETN is a good
realistically,
buy low right now. He could
yeah.
probably be the type of guy you go after because, I mean, he's got news coming out about his workload's going to get reduced and that kind of thing. If 201 and 206 gets you ETN, which it might if people are panicked,
Fuck,
that
even
might
all
be
three of
something
them.
that you could venture into doing.
Yeah, even all three of the picks. If the guy's driving a hard bargain, like I'm not worried about losing out on a little bit of value, quote unquote, because it's a start 8-10 man league. For the most part, value doesn't really mean much. It's more so just having hammers.
Yeah, exactly. And if you get ETN plus, let's say he also has Chris Godwin on his roster and he's not excited about him, maybe you can get ETN and Godwin for 201, 206 in like your 2025 third or something like
Yeah.
that. Sorry, 201, 202, 206 in your 2025
Yeah.
third
Yeah, that makes
for
sense.
those two guys. That could make some sense. So yeah, you have a lot of options. You could inject some youth. You could go after some veterans. Mainly though, you're running this back. That's basically the piece of advice that you have.
Yes, sir. Looks good.
Yep. So let's go on to Chan Hughes, of course, classic Dynasty Decision submitter here, 12-team PPR. And if anybody was curious, by the way, we are caught up on Mother Flocker and Flocker submissions as of this video. So hopefully no more submit before the next one we do. We'll try and do one earlier next week so that we can get some free submissions out to you guys. Some people have been waiting since like June of 2023, and I feel bad. So I definitely want to get to some of those. We'll try and do that maybe on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. So Chan Hughes' team, 12-team PPR, 4-point per passing touchdown, half tight end premium. It's probably a tiered PPR knowing Chan Hughes. He said they recently went away from that actually.
Wow.
And made running back to full PPR. So looking at this team, we got a super flex format as well. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. That's all you need at quarterback. Bijan, Saquon, Ramondre at running back. Pretty much all you need there. Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins, and then some good depth there with Lockett, Myers, Mike Williams, those type of guys. Trey McBride, TJ Hawkinson as the tight ends, and then also has 103, 108, 211, 212, and all of his future picks. So, I mean, Chan, I know you submit a lot of teams to us, but your team's in pretty fucking good shape right now. So I don't know if we're going to spend too much time on this one. I mean, let's get to some of his questions. He says, I want to walk away from this rookie draft with Marvin Harrison Jr. or Neighbors. So, I mean, he has 103. I would imagine you're guaranteed one of those guys if you just want one of them. But if you want Marvin that bad, I'm okay trading up. Say all it costs you to move up one spot is 103, 211 in your 2025 second or something like that. I'm fine doing that just to get up for Marvin. But he said the 101 guy is a wild card and has a ton of draft capital. He also has 105 and 106. And he said he feels like he will go with Marvin. So if that guy takes Marvin Harrison, I doubt the guy at 102 is going to take Neighbors. You're probably just screwed and you just got to take Neighbors at 103 because the guy at 102 probably would take Caleb Williams. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the thing here, by the way, that he mentioned is that the league is very down on Caleb Williams, so it's very likely he falls to me at my 103. That
so you just take him then shit. If you're not down on him.
That changes some shit because if you take Caleb Williams and you have Allen, Lamar, and Caleb, then at that point, I hate having to move on from such a.
I'm going to stop you right here and say that what I would do instead, if that's the case and Caleb falls to you at 103, I'm holding Caleb Williams until he proves that your league shouldn't be down on him. That's what I would do. I would just, you don't need anything for this team. This is the team that's ready to compete as it is right now. I would hold Caleb Williams as a value accumulation asset. And if they're low on Caleb Williams, that's their loss. They can just wait until he balls out in the NFL.
Somebody's just got to draw like a Caleb Williams behind bars because Chance is going to be holding him behind bars from the rest of his league until they realize what he's worth, eh?
Exactly. Like, what if your whole league is down on a player? That means he's best off in your hands, right?
Yeah, perhaps. And I mean, who knows? Like, the easy transition would be like, oh, just take Caleb Williams, trade one of the quarterbacks. But like Corey said, like you don't really have a pressing need in a start 9, so I don't even mind holding Caleb. Once he starts proving it, either selling Caleb Williams or selling Lamar Jackson / Josh Allen. Like if you get a fucking huge haul for one of those guys and Caleb Williams is the quarterback 7 in fantasy in year 1 and he's just revolutionizing the Chicago Bears offense, then at that point, it's a win-win scenario because you're already making the bet that Caleb Williams will appreciate in value, which if they're all pessimistic in your league, it's almost assured that he will appreciate in value. Then at that point, the other two guys that you can move anyways are top 5 overall freaking assets in the landscape of Dynasty.
Yeah, I think that's a fine risk if you want to play it a little bit risky. But to be honest, like your team is in such a good spot that to me, like if you were a real NFL roster and you had no needs on your roster, you would just take best player available. So if
Yeah,
your
no, I
league is
agree. I
dumb
agree.
enough to let you get Caleb Williams at 103, you're just going to take Caleb Williams and sit on the asset until he accumulates value. That's what I would do.
No, I know. I agree. I'm basically saying, like, once Caleb Williams starts giving you the production that you want, given the status of your team that you want production, then at that point, maybe you can even venture into trading a Lamar or trading a Josh Allen or trading even Caleb if the league views him in that light. You can transition some of those points. Maybe come week 6, Caleb Williams is the quarterback 7 in fantasy. Lamar Jackson is the quarterback 4. Josh Allen is the quarterback 1. And somebody comes to your inbox saying, hey, you know what? I missed out on Caleb Williams, or I want a quarterback now. Like, would you give me Lamar Jackson for CD Lamb plus, like, I don't know, a 2025 mid to late projected first?
Yeah, you have a lot of flexibility at that point. He said some players that are targets / somewhat available are guys like Jamar Chase, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, James Conner, Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore. I mean, given the structure of your team, Tyreek Hill is the one that sticks out to me as somebody that really fits your roster because, I mean, you're going to win next year. If you have Tyreek Hill on your roster, like your team is loaded. So Tyreek is the guy that I would definitely consider going after. If all it costs you is your 108, like you're in a position where you can overpay. If it costs you 108 in your first next year or whoever's first that is, like I'm literally fine doing that for Tyreek plus.
Yeah, or like if you're not able to do that before the season starts, maybe see if like it's if you hold that 2025 mid first into mid season, then it gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to acquire.
I'm
Like,
assuming it's not his too, because he has it listed
that's
as mid
why.
here and not the rest of the picks as mid.
That's why. Basically, what I'm trying to infer is like if an opportunity where you can buy like a Justin Jefferson who misses time ends up materializing, like we saw this past year, then at that point, having the assets that you do, you can make a pretty compelling package to someone.
Well, and he says too, the guy that has Tyreek is stuck in the middle and it's his one. So if that guy wants his first back because he's trying to rebuild, you might be able to sell him that his 2025 first is going to be early because he's selling off Tyreek and he's looking to rebuild. Maybe it doesn't cost you that much more than giving him his 2025 first back. Maybe it's just giving him his first back and your 2 second rounders this year for Tyreek Hill. And then you're ready to go. You're ready to win the championship with this team as it is, to be honest. But if you can make any other moves for a guy like Tyreek, Jamar Chase, I would only go after hammers. I wouldn't be giving up assets for like Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk or James Conner. They're not even going to make your lineup, to be honest, dude. You're at a start 9 league. There's no point of even going after those guys. So if you're going to go after anybody, Chase, Tyreek, those type of guys are definitely the guys that I would go after personally. He has 2 trades listed here. He sold Austin Eckler for the 211. I might have held him for that price tag. I think that's about what he's worth. I probably would have just held him at that time. In a full PPR league, I think I would hold him. CeeDee Lamb for Ayuk in the 103. You sold off Lamb actually for Ayuk in the 103. I think that was probably a good move, to be honest. That's 2 really good assets that you got back.
I mean, especially with the context that Caleb Williams might be there at the 103.
Yeah, literally. I mean, Caleb Williams is more valuable, at least in my opinion, in a startup than even CeeDee Lamb is.
Or at least equivalent.
Yeah, at least equivalent. So, yeah, you're in a good spot. We don't have to spend any more time on your team. Sammy's the last team of the video here. 12 team, half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown. It is a 0.2 per carry for the running back position. A half tight end or half wide receiver premium, and then full point for tight end. Superflex league, Mahomes and Josh Allen doesn't get any better than that at quarterback. Nothing at running back, though, with Eric Gray and Spiller and those guys. Drake London is pretty much your only wide receiver worth a shit, too. Sam Laporta, your only tight end really worth a shit. Frymuth is okay, but you do have a crap ton of draft capital, 103, 106, 108, 111, 203, 208, 209, 210, etc. A bunch of thirds as well, an extra first and 2 extra seconds in 2025, an extra second in 2026. This one's going to be fun, man. You're going to the cupboard with a full wallet. You're going to the grocery store with like $1,000 to spend at this point in time. So, I mean, what stands out to me is you have a lot of assets. You do need a lot. So this isn't like the type of team that I would look at and be like, okay, trade up for the best possible assets, because you do kind of need to hit on your picks, and, you know, a volume of picks is what you're looking for here. But I mean, the one pick that stands out to me is secure Marvin with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is Marvin going to be there at the 103? Did he mention
Well, that's
that?
why I'm saying, like, the only pick that I'm like absolutely trying to trade up from, if I can, is take your 111 and see if you can go up from 103 to 102 to get Marvin Harrison, and maybe you can get a second back in 2025 on top of 102 or something, because the rest of these picks are actually in a pretty good spot. I mean, 106, you should get Odunze there, somebody like that. Maybe even a quarterback potentially. 108, you should be able to get wide receiver 4 in the class there. If you keep the 111, you should get another tier 2 wide receiver there. 203, 208, 209, and 210. Very deep wide receiver class. You should be able to throw darts there. Maybe you take some running backs there as well. 303 and all those picks too. Again, you have a lot of draft capital. I would even really touch your running back core if you don't want to, because your 2025 capital is likely the capital that's going to get you your running back core. So if you want to just load up on wide receivers this year, load up on maybe a third quarterback if you can in the 2024 class, that makes a lot of sense to me, because the running back class is going to be very good next year and you're going to have the opportunity to fill it out with those picks.
Yeah, no, I agree with that analysis there. Like you said, maybe 103 plus the 111 can get you up to the 102. And I understand that seems expensive on face value. Maybe, like you said, try to see if you can get a second, but in your context, like, doesn't really matter as much. It is a start 12 though, so definitely see if you can get the value. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to make such a world of a difference for this team. On top of that, having the 106, having the 108 again in a start 12 league, very, very valuable assets. Now, maybe see by draft day, like if JJ starts getting buzz at the 108 and he's what's left for you. Again, if it's Brock Bowers or if it's JJ McCarthy, if you can trade that pick, that asset into another established wide receiver, take Roma Dunze at the 106. And at that spot, you really only have to add, like Corey says, running backs and wide receivers to this team. You're already locked down at a quarterback, obviously, with the two best and a solid quarterback 3 for a contending window with Aaron Rodgers. You're already locked down with Sam Laporta. Just adding to those running backs and wide receivers, you can make this team, if not a top contender, at least a very, very top end house money team come next year, especially with those 2 ones to play with in 2025. One projected early. I don't know if you're
probably
projecting your only. I don't know if you're projecting your own. I don't think your first is going to be early next year with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes alone.
Yeah, well, and then keep in mind too, if you hit on a lot of your picks, if you get Odunze and he hits, if you get Neighbors and he hits, like, yeah, you're right. It might not be an early and projected first after all, but yeah, I mean, this would be like the equivalent of an NFL roster having an elite offensive and defensive line and a franchise quarterback, and then going into the draft to just draft wide receivers, defensive backs, linebackers, and running backs. Like, it's just, you get to draft the fun positions. You don't have to draft the trench players like the tight end and the quarterback position in a dynasty setting. So yeah, this one will be really fun for you. Again, if you have buy low opportunities on players you like, maybe JSN's available for the 111 and you love JSN, go ahead and take opportunities where you can spend them. But I trust my own drafting ability to the point that if I had a team like this, I'm comfortable spending most of these picks on players that I like in the rookie draft. And also too, you can wait until the rookie draft. If 208 comes on the board and somebody fell that somebody loves, punt that pick into 2025 as well.
Yeah, no, I agree there. This is going to be a fun build. Buckle up your seatbelt and just enjoy the ride. That's my advice for this team, man. Like, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to either trade those picks into some set players if you want, adventure the board, try to get a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. / Malik Neighbors. Like, if you're not able, let's just say you're not able to move the 103 up to the 102, then at that point, are you able to move the 103 to the 104, get Malik Neighbors if that guy needs a quarterback? Like, can you venture the board in that way? Because I mean, that's really just my sole advice, is have fun. And I mean, judging from the assortment of picks you have, I feel like you have a good head on your shoulders to be able to make those moves and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he says, like, I don't want to spend my 108. I don't want to spend my 111. Who are some receivers I should target? We're going to have a buys video coming out in a couple of days. So definitely keep an eye out for that video. I mean, as it stands right now, just like whoever, I mean, you're on our site. You can see our trade value chart. If you see a player that is valued at the 108 area, 111 area that you want to go buy on, and he's available in your league and you can get him for that price or potentially even less than that, or you can get somebody who's valued at 111, say for, and he's actually worth like the 109, 110 in the trade value chart, you could always go after that. So yeah, you have a lot of fun with this team. I mean, you do have some trades listed here: Schultz, Rashad White, and a fourth. You traded for Pat Freiermuth, a second and a fourth. Kind of lost that one. Rashad White ended up accumulating some value. Even Dalton Schultz too, with the extension that he got from the Texans the other day. I mean, you sell Mike Evans and Kyron Williams, you got a first and 2 seconds. Again, maybe you lost that one as well, Kyron Williams. That's probably about fair. I don't know.
Wait, sorry, I have to analyze the deals above that too. So the first one, I mean, you stole Rashad White pretty much for Derek Carr and some fodder. You also upgraded to a second and a third. I don't know.
Yeah, you stole Josh Allen for sure.
Josh
with
Allen,
Bryce Young, Achane, and JSN. That is an absolute fleece of the century. I mean, during the season, you made some sharp moves. Selling Gabe Davis for the 210, I think, was fine. I mean, he was trying to tank his pick also, so keep that in mind. Russell Wilson, Demario Douglas, and Carson Wentz for the 111. Like, I don't know how the fuck you pulled that off, but that was a great move. Jalen Warren and Josh Downs. I like both of those players. I would give them up to 106 in a heartbeat. Like, definitely some great moves. I trust your ability to be able to maneuver the board and make some good moves, because pretty much every move that you made here was good process, maybe minus the Rashad White one on September 5th. But regardless, I think you're in a pretty good spot. So that is the end of the video. Again, if you guys did enjoy this video, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. If you want your team broken down, we will try and get some free submissions on the next Dynasty Decisions. Keep an eye out for that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday area of next week. If you do want to get your team submitted and broken down right away, the easiest way to do that is to join flockfantasy.com. By using the promo code FSE, you'll get 30% off any of the packages. You get 7 days for free. On our site, we have our Dynasty Trade Value Chart, our Dynasty Trade Calculator. We have our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, which is coming out a week from today, March 15th. Our top 50 overall prospects. We have top 30 overall right now, broken down. Film's been watched, the write-ups have been completed, but we're adding 20 more and all the combine updates a week from today. So all of that is available on Flock Fantasy. And of course, you do get priority submissions to these Dynasty Decisions videos when you use the promo code FSE only. You have to use our promo code. You can't use Mason's or any of the other people's, because we do get some of you guys sneaking into the DD submissions with other promo codes. But again, if that interests you, leave it down below in the comments. We have it pinned down below in the description as well. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.